The New York Mets blew out the Colorado Rockies and in doing so, secured their first winning road trip of the season.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. This is the only podcast that covers the Mets 7 days a week throughout the regular season. If you want to find any of my written work, you can do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. On Saturday night, the New York Mets played the exact game you would want them to when they're playing at altitude against the worst team in baseball. They scored a bunch of runs, they did not give up many, and they were able to win the game in very easy blowout fashion. When I say they didn't give up many, Clay Holmes only gave up one run, and the Mets bullpen behind him was very solid. Jose Butto, 2 scoreless, and then Jose Castillo finished it out. But we got to talk about the offense. 8 runs on 12 hits, 3 home runs, and Ronnie Mauricio got the Mets on the board. He provided the spark in this game. In the third inning, he saw a hanging curveball, and boy, did he demolish it. The most impressive home run of the season when it comes to distance and just sheer impact as far as the way he hit that baseball, the way it flew off his bat, 110 miles per hour off the bat. 35-degree launch angle. So that is a towering moonshot, 456 feet, and that went into the triple deck at Coors. People don't hit the ball there. I mean, that is just a extremely impressive home run that showcases the talent of Ronnie Mauricio. I talked about it going into the series that the Mets should play Mauricio in every single game because at altitude, if he gets a hold of anything, it's gone. Or if it's not gone, it's a rifle double that can be, or actually could easily be a triple with all the space in that outfield. It didn't make sense to be playing Acuna over Mauricio this weekend. So I'm glad Mauricio's gotten the first 2 starts. He should get all 3 because this is a series for him, especially with the Rockies pitching. I mean, we're going to see when the Mets get back home, the Nationals, the Rays, those teams have some better arms that they'll throw at the Mets. And I'm not going to predict that Mauricio isn't going to be able to find his hits and it'll potentially run into his home runs, but it's not going to be as easy. I don't want to call that an easy home run, but more just the pitching is going to get more difficult coming up here. So take advantage of it while you got it. This is a guy to play in a series like this. We'll see how he does once the pitching ramps up this week. It's good that he has this time, though, to get his feet under him in the big leagues, and hopefully he can carry over this momentum, and he does thrive against some better pitching this upcoming week. He also got another rally going. The Mets had a tie game going into the 5th inning because Ryan McMahon hit a leadoff homer for the Rockies in the bottom of the 4th, the only run that Clay Holmes would allow. Jared Young hits a leadoff homer in the 5th, got a fastball low and away, went with it, Oppo Taco for his 2nd homer of the season. Ronnie Mauricio then gets a base hit, steals second base, advances to 3rd on a ground up by Francisco Lindor, and scores on a single by Brandon Nimmo. The Mets then would get another home run in the 6th inning. Jeff McNeil, a leadoff homer, his 4th of the season. I'll tell you what, we're not going to talk about it today, but the Mets have a log jam in this infield, and Jeff McNeil does not get talked about enough. I mean, the fact that he's playing a halfway decent center field is impressive as it is. There was a play tonight that Tyrone Taylor would have made, McNeil coming in on a ball that he didn't catch, but overall, I've been pretty impressed with the fact that he does not look like a disaster out there. He does not look like a corner outfielder that's just too slow to be manning center field. He's done a nice job, gets good reads out there. But he's been a very solid at-bat ever since coming back. Really good stuff from Jeff McNeil. You got to keep him in the lineup, and that puts the Mets in an interesting spot, especially when Mark Vientos is ready to return. Who's going to get sent down? If they decide to send down the guy that's not playing, which is Acuna, how do you juggle playing time for McNeil, for Mauricio, for Beatty, for Vientos? It's going to be a very complicated problem. Luckily, the Mets have a little bit of time right now where they can just lean into Mauricio, Beatty, and McNeil and let the cream rise to the top. Ultimately, I would be surprised if Brett Beatty got sent down when Mark Vientos is ready to return, but both those guys have options. And I don't think you want Acuna just wasting away on your bench all season, but he is perfect in the role that he's playing right now. I mean, if he was 28 years old, you wouldn't even think about it. He would just be the guy on your bench all season doing what he's doing right now, running, playing great defense late in games. Because he still has the chance to be your second baseman in the future, I think he probably gets demoted. But again, the Mets are in an interesting spot with all these guys playing relatively well. So definitely something to monitor moving forward. Now, the Mets had a big seventh inning as well. Brandon Nimmo, Juan Soto each drew walks. Pete Alonso got a base hit to load the bases. Then the Mets scored one on a sacrifice fly by Tyrone Taylor, two more on a base hit by Luis Torrens. Final run came in the eighth inning when Lindor got a two-out single. Luis and Acuna came in as a pinch runner and to finish out the game for Lindor at short for the final two innings. Acuna would score on an RBI double by Brandon Nimmo, who went 2 for 4 with those two RBIs. Lindor, first start since the broken toe, didn't look like it was bothering him at all. He stole 2 bases, went 3 for 5. Now on the season, Lindor has 13 stolen bases, 14 home runs. That's in 65 games played. He's on pace right now for 35 homers and 32 stolen bases. So another 30-30 season is what Lindor is on track for. And he's been running a lot more since the calendar turned to May. I think he only had 2 stolen bases in April. Don't quote me on that, but certainly not that many. And he has been running wild since then. So good to see Lindor feeling good out there. And it doesn't seem like that toe is really going to be an issue for him. Mauricio, obviously, good game. We talked about that. 2 for 4, couple runs scored, home run, stolen base. Did make an error at third base, but also made some really strong throws over there. I think that Beatty is still this team's best defensive third baseman, but Ronnie looks natural over there. That might be his future position. And, you could have a world where Mauricio becomes your starting third baseman this year if he can hit, and Beatty is the utility guy who's backing up McNeil and Mauricio at second and third, while Vientos is your DH. I mean, you just got to see who's hitting. But I definitely think at this stage, Vientos is looking like the worst defender at third of the 3, which would track with what these guys were in the minor leagues. But I still think Beatty is the most sure-handed. Now, crazy thing about this game, the Mets scored 8 runs, and they were still 3 for 14 with runners in scoring position. But you know what? They scored 8 runs, so I'm not going to harp on that too much. Clay Holmes had a fun line to look back on. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run. And that run coming on the solo home run. 6 strikeouts, no walks, 9 hits allowed. And that just shows you how effective this guy can be pitching with runners on base. He did it for years as a reliever. He's going to give up his hits because he's pitching to contact, and that's not a bad thing. This is a guy that has the ability to get the big ground ball when he needs to. We've also seen him able to keep guys off balance, induce the weak contact to get the pop up or the shallow fly ball that a runner can't score on from third base. And all of a sudden he was in a spot with a couple runners on and nobody out. And now he's got 2 outs and a chance to get out of a jam. So he's been extremely impressive through 13 starts now, a 2.95 ERA and 73 1/3 innings pitched. That is the most innings he has pitched throughout his entire career in a season. Not surprising as a guy that's never been a starting pitcher for this long, but he has just been so impressive. He's leading the team in wins with 7 right now. Again, leading in innings pitched. That's only because he is 1 start ahead of David Peterson, who only needs to go 3 innings in his next start to grab back the team lead. Kodai Senga would need 6 innings, but Peterson is clearly pacing this rotation right now when it comes to innings per start. And I think those 3 guys, I trust all of them. If the playoffs started tomorrow, I would trust all of them to grab a playoff start. I don't know how Holmes is going to hold up for the marathon, if he'll have more left in the tank for October. He's also by far the easiest starting pitcher to transition into a bullpen role because he's not going to be fazed by it. But we'll see where he's at. If he stays this strong all year long and it's just one of those things where you're looking at a guy and saying, okay, he's a starting pitcher and he's handled the workload and he looks completely normal and he's looking the same in September as he is right now, that's a guy that absolutely can start for you in the playoff games. We'll see how Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea come back, but the Mets have a very good rotation right now, and that doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. What I want to talk about in the next segment is the significance of this being the first winning road trip of the season for the Mets coming here in June. Was this the right time to get themselves on track on the road? I want to explain why this was so important in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start to build wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, even plan long-term goals. And it makes managing money with your partner smoother than ever, as you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. We're about halfway there. Appreciate all of you who continue to subscribe. Okay, so this year, the Mets had not had a winning road trip all season. They opened up the year in Houston to face the Astros, lost that series, went to Miami, beat the Marlins, ends up being a 3-3 road trip. Then they come home, face the Blue Jays and the Marlins. They win the first 5 games of that homestand, lose the final one, still win both series. Go on the road, face the A's, win a series. Then they go to Minnesota, lose a series. Again, a 3-3 road trip, playing 500 ball on the road. Come home, sweep the Cardinals in a 4-game set, sweep the Phillies, a perfect 7-0 homestand, hit the road for 1 series. It's a 4-game set against the Nationals. We all remember how that series went. The Mets easily could have won it, but instead they let a couple games get away, split the 4-game set 2-2. Come home, face the Diamondbacks, lose a series. Then they hit the road, beat the Cardinals in the first game, have a rain out, play a doubleheader, get swept in that doubleheader. Go to Arizona to face the Diamondbacks again. This time they beat the Diamondbacks. Once again, 2 series on the road. They win 1, they lose 1, 3-3 road trip, 500 again. Come home, beat the Cubs, beat the Pirates in a pair of series. Then they hit the road, technically, for the Subway Series against the Yankees. Lose that series. That loss seems to carry them into Boston. They dropped the first 2 games of the series against the Red Sox, but then they win 1. So it ends up being a 2-4 road trip, their first losing road trip of the season. Come home, beat the Dodgers, beat the White Sox, sweep the Rockies, great 7-2 homestand. And then they hit the road for this current trip this week, split the Dodgers in a 4-game set that they probably should have won, and now they have beaten the Rockies. So if they still lose on Sunday, doesn't matter. They will have a 4-3 road trip at worst for their first winning road trip of the season. You look at what they've been this year at home. They've played 10 series. They're 9-1 in those series. The only series they lost was that one to the Diamondbacks, and they've gone 24-7. On the road, they're now exactly 500 again, 17-17. Their series record is 4-5-2. They've split both the 4-game sets. They have won 4 of the 9 3-game sets. They've lost 5. We'll see if they can even out that record on their next road trip, as they'll be squaring off against the Braves. But that's really why I think this road trip was so important. You look at where the Mets are at right now. Let's say they beat the Rockies, complete the sweep, come home, and they do what they have done at home all season. They win both of those series. Well, now they're going to be 20 games over 500. All of that takes place over the next 8 days when they hit the road to square off against the Braves. And that is going to be a pivotal stretch of their season because they got 10 games against the Braves and the Phillies, all consecutive. 3 in Atlanta, 3 in Philly, 4 at home against the Braves. This is going to be an opportunity once they get to that 10-game stretch to assert their dominance in the National League East, to grab a hold of this division with both hands, and to make it known that the Mets are the team to beat. I think they're already there. They're in the driver's seat. We're going to talk about the Braves and the Phillies in the next segment. Those 2 teams are struggling right now. But this is going to be one of the more important road trips of the season. You can make an argument that once they get to it, I'm talking about their next road trip, that is the most important road trip of the season. The only reason why I would say you can make an argument, but I wouldn't say that wholeheartedly, is because it's still June. There's still a lot of baseball left. And while they say, the games count the same in April as they do in September, we all know things get heightened when you get to September and everyone's starting to fight for their lives. The Mets, will open up September with a 10-game road trip where it's Tigers, Reds, then they play 4 in Philly. So I'd say that's probably the toughest road trip of the season, or it looks to be, because right now the Tigers are the best team in baseball. We'll see if that holds by the time we get to September, but they've been a very good team. And then having to play 4 in Philly with, at that point, I think that's probably the last series against the Phillies, unless there's one more at Citi Field. There might be one more at Citi Field in September. I can look that up real quick. But that's going to be huge, huge, huge games. So I'd have to say that that's probably going to be the biggest road trip of the season. But for the middle of the season, this road trip that the Mets are going to go on to square off against the Braves, the Phillies, and then to have the Braves back at home after that 10-game stretch, going to be really pivotal. And they'll close off the month against the Pirates. And I think when you get to the end of June, that's where we're going to be able to really sit back and look at where the Mets are and evaluate what this season is all about. Because if the Mets finish off the Rockies, have a great homestand, go on the road, beat the Braves in a series, beat the Phillies in a series. Now, that's asking a lot. But I'm just saying, if that is the way they played this month, they come home, they beat the Braves in the 4-game set, and they go on the road and they take 2 or 3 from the Pirates. If they are able to reel off all these series victories this month, and that's asking more than I think you probably should, because you can't expect your team to just win every single series. But I'm just sort of laying out where this could end up. All of a sudden, if the Mets are sitting with a 5-game lead or better in this division by the end of June, and they have the best record in the National League as we go into July, as the All-Star break is upon us, for one, the Mets are going to be well represented. And by the way, voting is open, so let's not let Francisco Lindor miss another All-Star game. I don't even care about anybody else. Vote for Francisco Lindor to be an All-Star. But also, once you get to that All-Star break, all of a sudden, all eyes are on the deadline, and it's a matter of, what are the Mets playing for? Are they playing to be the best team in the National East and to win a division? Or are they setting themselves up to potentially be the best team in baseball? A team that can have home field throughout the playoffs, a team that is feared come October. It's not outside the realm of possibility that the Mets could be there. So they got to continue to handle what's in front of them. That's finishing off the Rockies in this series. But it just shows you how important it is to stack these games, to stack these series, because these are games you can't get back. And so, beating up on a bad Rockies team is important, and hopefully the Mets can finish it. I am looking it up right now. The Mets will play the Phillies again in August. That'll be their last home series against the Phillies. So they will not see them again in September. That 4-game set, September 8th through the 11th, will be the last time they face the Phillies. So that's obviously going to be a very pivotal road trip, and the Mets will come home for, looks like, 9 games, and then they'll finish off their season against the Cubs and the Marlins. That's enough schedule talk, though. I want to close out this show talking about a topic that delights me. Actually, first things first, I'm looking back at my notes. One last thing to say here when it comes to the Mets being the best team in baseball. Since June 1st of 2024, the Mets have won 106 games out of their last 170. So that's really impressive. That's the best record in baseball. The Dodgers are second at 168. So again, Mets have been playing great for a long time now, and I hope that continues. But let's talk about some teams that haven't been doing so good. Brings me a lot of joy to talk about the Phillies and the Braves to close out this show. Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you're always going to talk to a real person. And for trade pros who are looking for that extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. That's why thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com. If you're an everydayer that's always tuning into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. It's our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks in the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime, take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways, get a live graphic sent to your phone each day so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Let's talk about the struggles of the Braves and the Phillies. We're going to open it up with the Braves because their struggles have been more pronounced with the way they've been losing lately. 3 walk-off losses in a row and just brutal loss after brutal loss after brutal loss. They blew a 6-run lead by giving up 7 runs in the 9th inning at home against the Diamondbacks. They got swept in that series. That was on Thursday. On Friday, they lose in extras on a walk-off wild pitch. And on Saturday, Bryce Elder does everything for the Braves to get around what's been a brutal bullpen. 8 innings, 1 earned run, no walks, struck out 12. Braves were clinging to a 2-1 lead in the 9th inning against the Giants. Pierce Johnson gives up a walk-off homer to Matt Chapman. Brutal stuff if you're a Braves fan. If you're a Mets fan, not bad. You look at the Braves season, they started the year 0-7. So that was brutal. It was the Dodgers and the Padres, if I'm not mistaken. A couple series on the road. Can happen to anybody. Really rough start. Tough to pull yourself out of that. They did, though. They went 21-14 from that point on, and they were sitting at 21-21 back at 500 on May 13th. There you go. Plenty of time. We saw last year, Mets were 11 games under 500 at the end of May. So I have not counted the Braves out at any point, and I'm still scared to count the Braves out because of how much talent they have. But you look at what's happened since then. May 18th, they're sitting 1 game over 500. And at this point, they've gotten back Strider. They've recently gotten back Acuna. I think Strider is still getting his feet wet, but Acuna has been awesome since coming back. And yet, since May 18th, they close out the month they lost 7 of 10 to close out May. And they've now lost 6 in a row to open up June. That's a 3-13 stretch. Now you look at the division, all of a sudden, the Braves are 13 games back of the New York Mets. I mean, if there's something to count them out of, it's the division. Could they get back in the wild card race? Yes, but the Mets last year, they never got back in the division after their early hole. The Nationals have a 2.5 game lead over the Braves right now for 3rd place. The Braves are a 4th place team. And then look at the Phillies. They're also down bad too right now. They went 19-6 in May. It was not this past Monday, but the one before that. So you're looking at the final Monday in May. Who cares? Monday or Tuesday. It was probably Tuesday. Editorial meetings that just baseball typically on Tuesdays. So whatever. Let's call it Tuesday, the 27th of May. I was talking with my editors and we were doing our preliminary power rankings. So I have my list of the 30 teams. I sort of rough draft it and go on my gut. I don't dive too deep into the numbers. Here's what I'm thinking. Then we have our editorial meeting. We spend at least an hour. We're going back and forth. We're, okay, this team or this team. What do you think? Let's look at the stats. So we're trying to get the list in order so then throughout the week, I can start writing it out because those power rankings go up at the start of the month. And at the time, we were going to put the Phillies at number 1. And I'll tell you, I didn't have them at 1 at first. I think I had what we ended up with, which was the Tigers and the Yankees 1 and 2. And then I had, I pretty much put the Mets, the Cubs, and the Phillies on one line. And I said, I have some bias here. So I'd let the other editors kind of weigh in. And the consensus was Phillies, Mets, Cubs. Well, then that final week of May plays out, which would bleed into June. And the Phillies got swept by the Brewers. And this was after they had lost a game to the Pirates. They had a 9-game, lost a game to the A's. They had a 9-game winning streak that really buoyed their May record. I think it was swept the Rockies. So they swept the Pirates, swept the Rockies, and then they won the first 2 games of their series against the A's. And they lost that final game against the A's. And the Brewers came into town, and they got swept by the Brewers. They hit the road. They lost the series to the Blue Jays. And now they've dropped the first 2 games of their series against the Pirates on the road. Suddenly, the Phillies are 3.5 games back of the Mets after at one point grabbing the division lead. So when we reevaluate our rankings on Monday, or when I did, because I was the one writing the article, and I just at that point made some executive decisions, I couldn't put the Phillies over the Mets. I was like, all right, these 2 teams are still pretty close to each other. So we'll put the Mets ahead because the Mets were ahead last month. And I don't think the Phillies have done enough after getting the doors blown off them by the Brewers to have passed the Mets. And now here we are a week after that. And it's once again feeling like the Mets are the better team. Now, a lot can happen. It's 3.5 games. It's a long season. I'm certainly not counting out either of these teams, but the Phillies are one that I actually think this year can make a real push for this division. The Braves, it's getting to the point where the only reason why I'm nervous about them at all, and it's a very small bit of nerves that are deep down inside my core, and that's only because I've seen this Braves teams do improbable things before. We all watched them in 2022 where they somehow grabbed that division for the Mets. And we saw them in 2021 grab the division from the Mets due to some collective collapsing by the Mets and the Phillies, and then they won the World Series. So I'm just not going to count the Braves out ever. They're going to be 10 games back in September, and I'll be like, yeah, they got a chance to win out every single game this month and sneak into a wild card. And that's just how it's going to be. But the Phillies are clearly the team right now that is competing with the Mets atop this division. And that head-to-head, it's going to be a lot of fun to see the Mets going to Philly. And if they can win that series, that's going to put a stamp on the fact that they're in the driver's seat in this division. In the meantime, Philly's got one more to play against the Pirates. The Mets have one more to play against the Rockies. Then the Phillies are going to play the Cubs and the Blue Jays. Then they'll play the Marlins before hosting the Mets. So the Cubs are going to be a tough series for them. The Blue Jays, they'll try to get some revenge after the Blue Jays took a series from them. And the Marlins should give the Phillies some momentum before they face the Mets. But that's where we're at right now in this division. And it certainly is getting to the point where you have to say it's the Mets division to lose. I think it's too early to say that definitively. But once we get to the other side of that 10-game stretch where the Mets have played the Braves twice and they played the Phillies on the road for the first time, if they get through that stretch and they're sitting with a 5-game lead in this division, then I think at this point, or at that point, it will be decided that it's the Mets division. And it's on them to finish out the rest of the season strong and not let anybody else get back into it. I think this is the franchise that has the best standing right now. They got the best farm system in this division to be able to add at the deadline. I think they have the best executive because I don't think Alex Anthopoulos is the genius that everyone thought he was. And I think they had the best star players because we still haven't even seen the best version of Juan Soto. Francisco Lindor has been the best player in the National League for over a year now. And Pete Alonso's in the midst of a career year. Not to mention all of these young guys who, as long as one of them's hot at a time between Mauricio, Beatty, Vientos, Acuna, for that matter, you're good. You're good. Tomorrow's show, we'll talk about the final game of this series against the Rockies. We'll see if there is any minor league stuff to cover. We'll see what takeaways we have. Actually, my expectation for Monday's show is to break down the final game of this Rockies series and then do another one of those sort of status updates on the Mets infield and where we're at with each of these guys and who should be getting the playing time moving forward. So we'll look forward to that. As always, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you want to be Locked On Mets Insider, find the link in the episode description. And thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day, not for your second watch. Head over to YouTube and check out the first ever 24/7 streaming channel. Covers everything in the world of sports. Talking about Locked On Sports today. Local hosts from each team give you insight. League-wide hosts will also take you through the action. Check out Locked On Sports today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube.